What is up, guys? We are back with another video working on the Dakota. It's actually been probably 4 or 5 months since I've recorded a single video on this thing, as I just haven't been working on it. There's a few things I have done here and there, kind of sporadically, a couple little random things which will be shown or explained in later videos. A lot of that stuff will be getting touched again later. For today's video, we're going to try to get the turbocharger mounted back on this thing. And I started working on this yesterday because I had to rush through some stuff to get some measurements for a few other things that I needed some help with from a few other people. So what we've got already done on the new turbo exhaust setup is this right here. So we've got the little collector cup bolted on, a U, and then a Y pipe. There we go. So there's 2 pipes coming in the bottom. Section of pipe that I made those two fit into by smashing in a vise, and then another piece of 2.5 inch round that I smashed on one side to match the previous pipe, and then round on top for the flange to go on to. And then of course it is just a pre-bent mandrel U running into the one side of the Y pipe, and you can see the other inlet right there, and that will be for the bank over here, which I have not touched. So I just have to do that other side, and then I have to figure out something to brace the Y pipe with, which will probably get welded onto the pipe here and bolted to the cylinder head here, or I may just run a strap bolted here and have the strap bolted to the turbo somewhere, because I've got all these bolts on the compressor and everything right here, but we'll figure that out later. So first thing is first, I'm going to start working on this other runner, try to get this Y pipe finished, and then we'll start figuring out bracing and getting the turbo mounted up and oil lines and all that stuff after that. Alright, we are back with an update. The Y pipe, minus the wastegate, because I don't have that yet, is fully welded and done. And that is what it's looking like out of the truck. I want to give you guys a look at it before I get it all bolted up, because it's hard to see the thing. So, of course, we've got, passenger side running up into the homemade Y pipe, which you can see a little bit better here, and then of course, driver's side, which is already done. And yeah, that is it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All of this was made just using that welder and a 4.5 inch grinder, and that's it. No fancy tools, no chop saws, nothing crazy like that, no benders or anything. So if any of you guys are watching this thinking, you'd like to be able to do that sort of thing on your own at home, you absolutely can. If you get yourself a pre-bent mandrel piping kit and just spend some time, maybe practice on something else first that isn't as expensive, but all you need is a welder like that, a grinder, and a little bit of practice, and you can absolutely make something like this on your own without spending a lot of money on it. So this is as done as it's going to be for now. I'm going to get this bolted up onto the truck, and then we're going to try to get the turbo back on. So we've got the max speeding rods turbo here. I've got hardware for it. I'm going to install it tonight without a gasket in it, because I'll have to take all this back off to put the wastegate on anyway. So I'm just going to mount it with no gasket and just leave it like that, because I only have one. And we'll get the turbo on. If I can get the turbo on here, we can fire this thing up and let it run, get a heat cycle in, and just kind of have a running turbocharged V8 in the Dakota for the first time ever. So won't be able to do any tuning, won't be able to monitor the AFRs because the down pipe is not ready to go, but I'll be able to fire it up and let it run. I have had this thing running once before, but it's extremely loud because of these open headers and everything. So let's get this Y pipe on, try to get this turbo on, and see if we can get a heat cycle or two in it. It is all bolted in. Here's turbo outlet. You can see the 2 pipes run across. See, the bottom one kind of traces along the sway bar down there, and then if we come down here, okay, where are we at? I was trying to focus on the bumper, but you can see right there, that's that bottom pipe coming up into the Y pipe. Crank this thing over and fire it up, blow a bunch of the junk out of it. If there's any little pieces of wire or a little bit of slag or something in it, it'll shoot out into the door up here or something, instead of getting jammed into the turbo. And then we can put the turbo on, put oil lines on. Turbo should be enough to muffle it to where I can start it and not feel bad. So yeah, let's get this battery hooked up and see what this thing will do. Alright, battery's hooked up. Pick my flashlight back up here, when I put the turbo on and I go to actually run it for a while, I'm gonna bring the laptop out here and use it. I'm gonna use the laptop to monitor, you know, coolant temperature and stuff. Pull out of gear. I've got the tires spread out in opposite directions, so it won't be able to roll anywhere. Let's see if we have. Oh yeah, I've got the fans wired to just stay on all the time because the temperature switch is bad, so we'll have to listen to that. And there is no oxygen sensor in there. It's actually sitting up here. So there is one in the truck, but it's just not plugged in. Alright, let's time that fuel pump a couple times. See what we got. Almost. Timing's off on it. Timing's way off. Hang on, let me fix that and then we'll come back. Alright, we are back. Pulled some timing out of it, and we're going to see if now it'll crank up. Alright, well, there should have been enough to blow all the junk out of it. Sounds like the timing is way off on it, like it's firing too early. So I'm going to have to look into that later. But for now, let's get the turbo put on it, because that'll quiet it down. I might be able to mess with it a little bit more without going deaf. And get the turbo on and get the oil lines on, and then see if we can get this distributor set up. I remember it kept cracking and popping a lot last time I had it running, so I don't know what exactly is going on here. So we'll mess around with that, get that figured out, and then that'll probably be it for tonight if we can get it to maybe run a little smoother. Alright, oil feed is hooked up. I've got my two-way splice right there, so I got the oil pressure gauge in the back, oil feed line on the other side running over here. Runs pretty cleanly along the block and everything up to the turbo, and then the drain is also in. I just had to shorten my old one just a little bit, and I had to shorten it a little bit and then change the fitting on the pan from a 90 to a 45. And after that it works perfectly, fits good. So we're going to fire this thing up, see how loud it is. If it's really loud, I'm going to shut it right back down, but if it's quiet enough, we'll let it run for a little bit. Hopefully I got the timing to where at least it'll just idle and not start so rough, because it was running pretty bad earlier, and a lot of that's because the timing is definitely off, and I haven't been able to tune the AFRs at all, so we've got a little bit of work to do there. But with no oxygen sensor, there isn't a whole lot that I can get done as far as tuning goes right now. So hopefully by the end of the week I'll have the downpipe and be able to tune all that. And I realized that I left my bubble wrap that was covering the throttle body on top of it, so it might have been causing some of the rough running there as well. Okay, let's see what happens. Running. Well, it's not running very good, but it is running. Okay, we got the timing tweaked just a little bit. See if it runs any better. If it doesn't, we'll shut her down for now. Because I think I've got some plug wires where they're not supposed to be. Okay. Yeah, it's either super lean or the timing's off, or both. I need to get the oxygen sensor on this thing and get the rest of the exhaust on it for like the downpipe and stuff, and then I can come in here and try to get this thing tuned out. But for now, we have a turbo on the V8 again, or I guess not even again, there hasn't been one on this yet. So that's hooked up. I'm going to check it for leaks in a minute here, but it's on there. You could hear it spooling up a little bit between the rough running and everything that we had going on here. But that's going to do it for now. I don't feel like making any more noise, and I really can't get the tune fixed up and squared away until I have a O2 sensor on there. So that's going to be it for tonight. I will get back with you guys later in the week. We'll probably get a wastegate on here, get the downpipe and everything done, and we'll try to get the tune squared away so we can get this thing to run a little smoother. Alright, we are back. It is the following weekend, and we're going to go ahead and get this Y pipe buttoned up and done. That way I can get it permanently bolted onto the truck, get the turbo permanently bolted on with at least an inlet gasket on it, and we're just going to try to have all this finished up. A friend of mine is welding the downpipe for me. He's going to TIG it for me because it's stainless steel to a cast iron flange. That's not something that I wanted to try, especially with the chance of it warping. There it is. This is the wastegate I got. This is just an eBay special, I don't know, Sport JDM or something like that. It was a little bit larger than the one I had previously. I think this is a 46 millimeter. The one I had on the V6 was a 36, I think, or something like this. Is a little bigger. So as long as this thing doesn't fail on me immediately, this will be give me a little bit of room to grow into it a little bit because of it being bigger, so I won't have to worry about re-welding the Y pipe and changing wastegates in the future. This should be plenty. Or if this one does fail because it's a Chinese piece of junk, I can maybe find a real one that uses the same flange. So there's that. It came with this hardware that doesn't fit the thing, which is kind of ironic. All those bolts are too long. And it only came with an outlet gasket, so I'm going to have to make my own gasket for the inlet, which is to be expected. That thing was like 45 bucks, so I'm not super concerned about it. Let's get this Y pipe pulled out. We'll get this wastegate flange on there. I'll probably make a hardware store run so that I can get this turd bolted on there, and then we'll just kind of take it from there depending on time. And we might go in here and try popping these different springs in, see if we can get the QA1 tie rod ends in, and just see how far we can go. Alright, we have the wastegate inlet flange on and fully welded. This thing welded up pretty nice for doing it all with flux core and everything. Not perfect, but it did a pretty solid job. And we've got a pretty clear shot into it from inside of there. I'm not going to worry about that little lip there. That'll be alright. But that is done, and that means... Oh, I welded this strap on here to brace everything. So that means that this Y pipe is 100% finished, and it can go back up onto the truck permanently. It doesn't have to come off again. One thing I wanted to show you, and I'm pretty happy about this. So as you guys know, I had to make my own Y pipe for this because the one I ordered showed up like 2 weeks late, and it ended up being a good thing because the Y pipe that I made, which was this guy right here to tee everything together, ended up fitting a lot nicer, being a lot more compact than anything I could have found online. The other thing that I just noticed that it does that is going to help performance quite a bit is it actually has a really nice scavenging effect. The Y pipes like what I used on the old V6 kit from 2 years ago, they don't scavenge very good. If you blow air in one runner, it pushes air out of the other a little bit. This one here, if you blow air in through this runner, it has a slight vacuum over there on that one. So I wanted to demonstrate that real quick if I can get the camera set up here. Alright, we're going to take the air gun, we're going to shoot air into this one, and if we do that, see it blow that one off obviously. Now if we take it and put it right here, see if I can get this to work. It actually sucks it back in. And we'll do the same thing with this runner and this runner. Perfect. So that should work pretty nicely. That was something that I was disappointed that I didn't have on the old exhaust setup, was a nice scavenging effect from the Y pipe. But this one that I made myself has a really nice smooth transition. I just heard a whole bunch of stuff fall back there. But it has a really nice smooth transition into that Y pipe there, and that, like I said, that was made 100% out of scrap pipe. This is a 2.5 inch piece, or this piece here, it's easier to see here. This section here was a 2.5 inch pipe or 3 inch pipe. I think it was 2.5 inner diameter. Flattened it in a vise. I cut a little bit out of these inner 2 inch pieces, shoved them in there, welded it up, and it's working out perfect. And after running it, I don't see any exhaust leaks anywhere, because if there was any exhaust leaks, there would be soot or rusty water and moisture coming out of pinholes somewhere on this, and there is nothing. There we go. Finished Y pipe for the 5.2 liter. Alright, the Y pipe is all the way back in. These bolts on the collectors are all the way tight. I'll obviously have to recheck these after a few heat cycles, but right now they're as tight as I can get them. Everything is sitting really good. The support strap is doing its job. This right here does not move at all anymore, and as the exhaust heats up and everything, that strap will allow for a little bit of flex, because that strap will kind of twist and everything. So we are solid, but there's enough give to account for the expansion as it heats up. And the wastegate is sitting perfect. So you can see I've got the tire turned all the way in, and this is actually, since there's no tire rods attached, this tire won't actually physically reach this point when the steering rack is hooked up. And if we take the wastegate, set it in place, you can see we've got plenty of clearance with the tire at full lock. So there's pretty much no way, I mean, as the suspension goes up, it's going to pull that tire in the other direction anyway. So there is absolutely no way for that thing to come in contact with this gate. And the outlet is facing nice towards that way, so I'll be able to run that back into the downpipe, which will connect the downpipe and tie it into the Y pipe down here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and bolt this on. Now, they didn't send me a gasket with this, but I'm wondering if I don't need one, because of this has like an integrated fire ring. So I might just try it without a gasket and see if I end up with exhaust leaks from there, because I don't really care for the idea of running a paper gasket on it. But I think for right now I'm just going to try and bolt this thing on without a gasket, and we'll get the turbo bolted back on. I got the gasket surfaces wire wheeled on both of them. We'll get the oil lines hooked back up. Let's get all this stuff back on and see what it looks like with kind of almost the complete package put together. Alright, when I turned my camera on, it just gave me some sort of recovering data issue or screen, so hopefully I didn't lose anything. Now we've got turbos bolted up, there's a gasket in there, these bolts are tight, wastegate is on and fully bolted on, everything is tight there. We've got the oil lines permanently back on. This stuff right here does not have to come back off. It is all set and dialed in, except for one thing, which is this compressor housing. I'm going to have to loosen it up, twist it around. I'm going to point it so that the outlet is facing straight up, and that'll have it pretty much directly in line with the inlet to this. I'll just put a 90 on it and run that up here to the intercooler inlet, and we will be good to go there. And I've got some wobble kind of forward and back and side to side here, And what I think I'm going to do once I get this rotated is, instead of running one strap from the exhaust side to the cylinder head, I'm going to take 2 pieces of strap and have them come up into like a triangle off of one of these bolts a piece, and then from there, from that triangle piece, I'm going to have a piece of strap that runs straight across over to the intake manifold right up there. I think that's what I'm going to do to try and eliminate the movement in both directions. Yeah, I think that is going to be it for this video. We've got the exhaust fully done, turbo's fully bolted up. Everything is pretty much ready to go. The truck does run, so there is that. But yeah, that is going to be it for now. We'll save the suspension stuff for the next video. I've got to order wheel seals for the, or bearing seals, not wheel seals. I got to order bearing seals for the front because I want to replace them while I'm in there because I could see grease coming out of one of them. And then we'll put springs and the QA1 tie rods and all that stuff in. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I can't wait to see you all in the next one.